Welcome back. This is Hope Adon right here at Hope TV, where you look and you live. And we are hoping that you are still watching us. Make sure you are interacting with us as well. Tell us where you are tuned in from. Yes. My name is George Gishuru.
And my name is Beatrice Nudi. And it's time for us to now peruse through the newspapers. It is December the 10th, 2024. And the highlights of the day today is, first of all, I think we have seen this doing rounds on social media, why Ruto, Uhuru are closing ranks. And I see, is it a handshake? So President William Ruto's surprise visit to the rural home of his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, adds a new twist to the fluid political landscape that started with the rapprochement between Dr. Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga. This is a story covered on page 4 and 5. And this meeting, in fact, has sparked speculation about a potential thaw in their fractured relationship. So, definitely, nile watu nasemanga, hizi siasa usieke kwa roho.
You know, when I saw this meeting, it reminded me of an interview I saw of former State House head of Presidential Press Service, Lee Njiru. That's the name, yeah. And he said, all politicians, they are all cousins. Yeah. So sidhani ati huyu tuko is on our side, sijui. No, all of them
wako pamoja. Hata Rigathi saizi tunaona wanapigana na Ruto.
My friend.
Behind closed doors.
Wako. Si alikuwa ndani.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and actually that story, the same story that you have highlighted, is also the same top story inside the Standard, and they go with the headline, Secrets of Ruto Uhuru Meeting, whereas President William Ruto and former President Uhuru Kenyatta said they spoke of national unity, high taxation and harassment, Mount Kenya politics and the broad-based government were at the center of the discussions in Ishaweri in Gatondo. It's a story that you can read on page 4. A State House statement said the leaders appreciated the need to achieve more inclusive political consensus in the governance of our country to accelerate the attainment of inclusive growth. And the same goes on page 4. Uhuru Kenyatta's statement, Ruto agreed to engage all stakeholders to remove unnecessary tensions and propose a reconciliatory way forward. He stressed that the tensions caused by the elections are over and it is time to focus on the future as one people. So, of course, this will lead so many people to keep talking.
Yes.
But anyway, it's never a dull moment when it comes to Kenyan politics. So that story also is on the Standard.
The Standard, okay. Yep. And coming down to page 2, I see counties turning into employment bureaus, and I see governors have often blamed the huge workforce in the counties on inheriting employees from the defunct local authorities. That's a story covered on page 2. Page 3 and 4 is, of course, the story that we have highlighted, and we will continue to follow up on the same. And page 6, decisive week for Raila AUC bid with debate showdown. And the event is to be broadcast live from Commission's headquarters in Addis Ababa on Friday. So this will indeed be a moment of reckoning. The former premier will come face to face with his opponents as they articulate their vision for the people of the African continent. That's a story covered on page 6. Page 7, Ruto Uhuru wade into blame game over IEBC impasse. So I see President and his predecessor call for a speedy resolution of the court cases that has impended appointment of a panel to pick new commissioners. So I see there's a worry that delaying reconstituting IEBC could harm the credibility of the 2027 elections, covered on page 7. On page 8 is Patni loses assets over gold scam. That's a story covered on page 8 of the Daily Nation. And coming down to the DN2 today, Healthy Nation, main story here, very, very beautiful. I see 4-year-old girl's fearless journey, battling and beating cancer. On September 5th, Galam, in the company of her father, rang a bell to mark the end of her treatment. How beautiful is this? It's even giving me chills seeing this 4-year-old girl who has indeed fought cancer and indeed is now on remission. And I see words cannot describe how happy I am that my daughter has recovered. We talk about recovery today because of the doctors at Kijabe, and I am forever grateful. This is Gatulak Kwang. helping the father. And that's a story covered on the DN2. And more on the same, I see childhood cancers and cost of treatment, just to understand what it in fact looks like. The cost of treating a child with cancer can exceed 150,000 shillings. So it is definitely not a walk in the park. But we thank the Lord that the health of this little girl has been restored. Indeed, may God keep her in good health always. And page 7 of the DN2 Healthy Nation, I see it's not you, it's them, emotional abuse and ways to cope. So you can look at that story that is covered on page 7, more on relationships. And moving on, I see on the county news this morning, Nakuru now the third city with most new HIV cases. Even as we are still on the month of December, the HIV and AIDS Awareness Month. So spike attributed to mother-child transmission and infection among young people. 65,149 being the number of people living with the virus in Nakuru County. That's a staggering number. That's a big number, calling also for a lot of caution, even as, these treatments and all that needs to be done to curb the, infection spreading of HIV is being done. So indeed, caution needs to be on the individual as well. The back page, I see how KUJ sunk millions in idle Rwanda campuses. So I see universities have been unable to liquidate properties they bought after institutions were closed for non-compliance with standards. That's a story on the back page. And coming down to page 30, Hussein Mariga have their work cut out for them in local football. So their local teams are underfunded leagues, poorly officiated, and lack title sponsors for the benefit of players. Story covered on the sports page. And lastly, page 29, I see Kenya claims silver in parliamentary games. So legislators from East African countries have their day out in the field in Mombasa. And that's it for the Daily Nation.
All right, quickly, the Standard, still on the front page. Do not blame me, Kalonzo says of IBC panel delays. Troubled times with the constitutional crisis on electoral and boundaries issues worsening. Leaders are engaging in blame game, but they all agree the matter should be resolved as a matter of urgency. So why is it not being resolved? Because if all parties are in agreement, then we need to hasten the process, including the judiciary, because there is a case in court on the same.
Yes.
So also I believe all parties should play their role to ensure that we have IBC being reconstituted, because it's a crisis in itself. Already we have regions that do not have representation, because we are supposed to be having by-elections, including for the members of parliament who are appointed into the cabinet. Those regions, actually, they do not have now representation in parliament. So it's a matter of urgency for us to have the IBC reconstituted. And I'm glad that even the meeting yesterday between the president and the former president also touched on the same. And now we hope that we should see the matter being addressed swiftly. Reject high taxes. Wanjege urges poor Kenyans on page 7. You can read that. Assad missed his Saul to Paul moment. And I was actually reading that story on page 18. Syria war with Assad now gone. Middle East battle lines are redrawn. President Bashar al-Assad fled to Russia after Syrian rebels seized the capital Damascus unopposed on Sunday. And you can read that story on page 18. Page 5, EACC engages youth in war against the graft. The EACC has said it will going forward involve youth in fighting corruption. This follows a recent protest in which Gen Zs pushed for accountability, good governance, and a corruption-free society. You can read that story covered on page number 5. Then I also see how state is using NIS to gauge public opinion. In a move to gauge the nation's political temperatures, the Standard has learned that the Kenya Kwanza administration has turned to the National Intelligence Service to conduct a nationwide public opinion. This strategy is said to be part of efforts to salvage the waning trust in the government. Wow, it's on page 6, so you can read that. I also see there is a serialization, a book, Serialization, Birth of Law Reforms and Why I Declined Kibaki's Appointment as a Shadow Minister. That is Against the Tide by Martha Karua, page 10, and also page number 11. The Financial Standard pullout, power deals, pressure mounts on IPPS. House Committee seeks decisive action in dealing with the secrecy that marks the selection of farms and power purchase agreements with Kenya Power, which gives them free rein in setting electricity bills. You can read that. And also I see states overseas jobs drive should be a last resort. In the long term, we should create more jobs at home. Seeking jobs abroad should be an option, not a necessity. One way would be to make our education world class. That's a commentary by Exen Iraqi, professor at the University of Nairobi. Going to the business section as well, KRA collects $1 trillion shillings in 5 months as it races to meet 2.7 trillion shillings target. A notable contributor has been customs revenue, which has consistently exceeded 70 billion shillings monthly over the past 4 months. Taxman must now secure additional 1.695 trillion in 7 months to meet National Treasury's ambitious target. EAC ministers okay 103.5 million shillings for Lake Basin Commission Office. Read those stories on page 5. Page 27, this is the world news. David versus Goliath battle at top court climate hearings. Major economies have argued that the court should not tamper with existing United Nations conventions. Tiny nations say their homelands were being destroyed by climate change, a phenomenon they had nothing to do with. You can read that story on page 7 and other international stories. We go to the sports pages, and back page, Mbappe needs a helping hand as troubled Real tackle Atalanta. 15-time winners have lost 3 of their first 5 matches and find themselves 24th in the standings. Inform Atalanta lead Serie A and have not been beaten yet in the Champions League. And so today's matches, Girona taking on Liverpool, Atalanta at home to Real Madrid, Inter Milan away in Germany to take on Leverkusen, Club Brugge versus Sporting, Salzburg entertaining PSG, Aston Villa away to Leipzig, and Shakhtar Donetsk will be welcoming Bayern Munich. This is what awaits Hussein and Mariga at Kandanda House. Newly elected FKF President Hussein Mohamed and FKF Deputy President, former professional footballer McDonald Mariga. Hussein beat Doris Petra to win the FKF presidency on Saturday. Team a fresh start has to fix the game once and for all. You can read that on page 39. And Kenya out to reclaim team title at Interparliamentary Games. It's on page 38. And F1 2024 season talking points. Marks the master as he rises above Red Bull turbulence. Lewis Hamilton won 6 of his 7 titles at Mercedes. That is a story on page 37. Quickly, Business Daily front page. Mergers, buyouts loom as 12 banks seek fresh capital. Nigeria firm eyes Mombasa KPC cooking gas facility. Investors lose gains as Bamburi share price falls 21.5%. And the state turns to agents to get affordable house buyers. The state is recruiting estate agents to sell affordable houses and help buyers get mortgages in a bid to speed up the uptake of the project, which targets at least 200,000 units annually. that is on the Business Daily.
All right, and that's it for the newspaper review. You can grab a copy of your favorite. But remember, Pale Hope FM at the top of every hour, we also have news updates to keep you on the know, even as the day continues on. And right here on Hope TV, we have Dear at 7 p.m. and of course, News Watch come 9 p.m. And you can definitely tune in and be informed. Let us keep praying for this nation and everything that is happening. Always remember to mention the nation anytime you are praying. I believe that the Lord hears prayers and he has set watchmen to pray for the nation, because at the end of it all, he's the controller. He's the one up there. We have no control. Only God does. And now let us now have a look at the video of the day.